The prophet had introduced the concept of deification of man in February 1832 in Doctrine and Covenants 76:58 and 121:28 and 32. He elaborated on the topic in Doctrine and Covenants section 132, verses 17 to 20 and 37. Just 9 months before the funeral of King Follett, though relatively unknown to most of Western Christianity, it is widely believed in some of the Eastern churches. It was a prominent doctrine in Christianity of the 2nd through 5th centuries. Among the early church fathers who taught that men were destined to become gods were Justin Martyr, Origen, Tertullian, Irenaeus of Lyon, Clement of Alexandria, Gregory Nazianzen, Heraclitus, Cyprian of Carthage, Novatian, Maximus the Confessor, Athanasius of Alexandria, Cyril of Jerusalem, John Chrysostom, Jerome, Augustine of Hippo, the Persian Arafat of Syria, and a number of Christian pseudepigrapha, the writers of those documents. Indeed, the rather large corpus of the early Christian literature on the subject is too voluminous to discuss here, but I would refer you to the growing volume of Latter-day Saints studies of the topic. Premortal Man and the Heavenly Council. In the King Follett Discourse, Joseph Smith taught that God did not create the spirits of men, but that these spirits are as eternal as that of God. He said, "The mind or the intelligence which man possesses is co-equal with God himself. The intelligence of spirits had no beginning, neither will it have an end. There never was a time when there were not spirits, for they are co-equal with our Father in heaven. Intelligence is eternal and exists upon a self-existent principle. It is a spirit from age to age, and there is no creation about it. All the minds and spirits that God ever sent into the world are susceptible of enlargement. The first principles of man are self-existent with God. God himself, finding he was in the midst of spirits of glory because he was more intelligent, saw proper to institute laws whereby the rest could have the privilege to advance like himself." The same idea is found in the Book of Abraham, which Joseph Smith translated in 1835 and published in 1842. "Now the Lord had shown unto me Abraham the intelligences that were organized before the world was, and among all these there were many of the noble and great ones. And God saw these souls that they were good. And he stood in the midst of them, and he said, These will I make my rulers. For he stood among those that were spirits. And he saw that they were good. And he said unto me, Abraham, thou art one of them. Thou wast chosen before thou wast born. And there stood one among them that was like unto God. And he said unto those that were with him, We will go down, for there is space there, and we will take of these materials, and we will make an earth whereon these may dwell. And we will prove them herewith, to see if they will do all things whatsoever the Lord their God shall command them. And they who keep their first estate shall be added upon, and they who keep not their first estate shall not have glory in the same kingdom with those who keep their first estate. And they who keep their second estate shall have glory added upon their heads forever and ever. And the Lord said, Whom shall I send? And one answered like unto the Son of Man, Here am I, send me. And another answered and said, Here am I, send me. And the Lord said, I will send the first. And the second was angry, and kept not his first estate. And at that day many followed after him. Chapters 22 to 23 of the pseudepigraphic Apocalypse of Abraham, first published several decades after Joseph Smith's death, describe Abraham's vision of the premortal spirits of mankind assembled. When Abraham asked the meaning of the vision, God told him that some of those spirits would be born on earth as his descendants, and adds, This is my will with regard to what is in the light. The translator, R. Rabinowitz, adds in a footnote that the word rendered light may actually mean counsel, that is in the assembly, or council. Chapter 4 of the book of Moses, revealed to Joseph Smith in 1830, has God telling Moses that Satan was from the beginning, and he came before me, saying, Behold, here am I, send me. I will be thy son, and I will redeem all mankind, that one soul shall not be lost. And surely I will do it, wherefore give me thine honor. But behold, my beloved Son, which was my beloved and chosen from the beginning, said unto me, Father, thy will be done, and the glory be thine forever. In the funeral oration for King Follett, the prophet Joseph explained, the contention in heaven was that Jesus said there would be certain souls that would not be saved. And the devil said he could save them all, and laid his plans before the grand council, who gave their vote in favor of Jesus. So the devil rose up in rebellion against God and was cast down, with all those who put up their heads for him. Elsewhere, he wrote about the counsel of the eternal God of all other gods before this world was, and declared that the Father called all spirits before him at the creation of man and organized them. This idea is also found in the early Jewish Midrash Rabbah, Genesis 8:7, in which God says of the creation of Adam, "We took counsel with the souls of the righteous," and adds that the supreme King of kings, the Holy One, blessed be he, sat the souls of the righteous with whom he took counsel before creating the world. The same idea is repeated in Midrash Rabbah for Ruth 2:3, the souls of the righteous with whom the Holy One, blessed be he, decided to create the world. With the Almighty King of kings, the Holy One, blessed be he, dwelt the souls of the righteous with whom he decided to create the world. One of the Gnostic Christian texts discovered at Nag Hammadi in 1945 has Christ saying, "Then before the foundation of the world, when the whole multitude of the assembly came together upon the places of the Ogdoad." An earlier passage also seems to be describing the premortal council of which Christ is quoted. And these are what Jesus says in this premortal council. "Let us gather an assembly together. Let us visit that creation of his. Let us send someone forth into it, just as he visited the Anoyas, the regions below. And I said these things to the whole multitude of the multitudinous assembly of the rejoicing majesty. The whole house of the Father of truth rejoiced that I am the one who is from them. I produced thought about the Anoyas, which came out of the undefiled spirit, about the descent of the water, that is, the regions below. And they all had a single mind, since it is out of one. They charged me, since I was willing. I came forth to reveal the glory to my kindred and my fellow spirits." From the scriptures restored to the prophet Joseph Smith, we learn that there were two opposing plans presented in the primordial council. While Christ accepted the Father's plan and agreed to be the Redeemer of mankind, Satan wanted the glory for himself, and his plan would have abolished our agency. From these accounts, it seems that Satan was one of the leaders of the council, at least initially. This is suggested in the following statement by Lactantius, writing about God's activities before the creation of the world. Lactantius is writing, he lived about 260 to 330 AD. Anyway, this is what he said. "I will therefore set forth the method of all these things, that difficult and obscure subjects may be more easily understood. And I will bring to light all these descriptions of the pretended deity, led by which men have departed very far from the way of truth. But I will retrace the matter far back from its source, that if any unacquainted with the truth and ignorant shall apply himself to the reading of this book, he may be instructed, and may understand what can in truth be the source and origin of these evils, and having received light, may perceive his own errors and those of the whole human race. Since God was possessed of the greatest foresight for planning, and of greatest skill for carrying out in action, before he commenced this business of the world, inasmuch as there was in him and always is the fountain of full and most complete goodness, in order that goodness might spring as a stream from him, and might flow forth afar, he produced a spirit like to himself, who might be endowed with the perfections of God the Father. Then he made another being, in whom the disposition of the divine origin did not remain. Therefore he was infected with his own envy as with poison, and passed from good to evil, and at his own will, which had been given to him by God unfettered, he acquired for himself a contrary name, from which it appears that the source of all evil is envy. For he envied his predecessor, who, though through his steadfastness, is acceptable and dear to God the Father. This being who from good became evil by his own act is called by the Greeks diabolus, and we call him accuser, because he reports to God the faults to which he himself entices us. God therefore, when he began the fabric of the world, set over the whole work that first and greatest Son, and used him at the same time as a counselor and artificer, in planning, arranging, accomplishing, since he is complete both in knowledge and judgment and power.